over there.
I dare say we were. It was a test of the wills, and I would have to say one little bit zero, mummy. It's okay. I still gotta eat. Well, he still gotta eat, so he'll know. Anywho, welcome everybody. For tonight, we have the Q&A. Now, I said there were 36 questions. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna split them up. There's 5 nights. Tonight will be 6 questions. These questions are from the lectures of last week. And we are live here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, fan base. Indeed. So, these questions may seem trivial, but not all of them are, I guarantee you. These are what people wanted to know from Neville Goddard. The first question was, what is the meaning of the insignia on your book covers? And Neville says, it is an eye imposed upon a heart, which in turn is imposed upon a tree laden with fruit, meaning that what you are conscious of and accept as true, you are going to realize. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. Did you hear that? He was very specific. The eye on the heart on top of a fruit-laden tree. And he says it means that what you are conscious of and accept as true, you are going to realize. As a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And that is the law of correspondence. Oh, here's a good question. Question number 2. I would like to be married, but have not found the right man. How do I imagine a husband? Well, let's all pull up and listen to this one, shall we? Answer. Forever in love with ideals. It is the ideal state that captures the mind. Do not confine the state of marriage to a certain man, but a full, rich, and overflowing life. You desire to experience the joy of marriage. Do not modify your dream, but enhance it by making it lovelier. Then condense your desire into a single sensation or act which implies its fulfillment. In this Western world, a woman wears a wedding ring on the 3rd finger of her left hand. Motherhood need not imply marriage. Intimacy need not imply marriage, but a wedding ring does. Relax in a comfortable armchair or lie flat on your back and induce a state akin to sleep. Then assume the feeling of being married. Imagine a wedding band on your finger. Touch it. Turn it around the finger. Pull it off over the knuckle. Keep the action going until the ring has the distinctness and feeling of reality. Become so lost in feeling the ring on your finger that when you open your eyes, you will be surprised that it is not there. If you're a man, or if you're a man who does not wear a ring, you could assume greater responsibility. How would you feel if you had a wife to care for? Assume the feeling of being a happily married man right now. Let me read that again, shall we? Question. I would like to be married, but have not found the right man. How do I imagine a husband? The answer. Forever in love with ideals. It is the ideal state that captures the mind. Do not confine the state of marriage to a certain man, but a full, rich, and overflowing life. You desire to experience the joy of marriage. Do not modify your dream, but enhance it by making it lovelier. Then condense your desire into a single sensation or act which implies its fulfillment. In this Western world, a woman wears a wedding ring on the third finger on her left hand. Motherhood need not imply marriage. Intimacy need not imply marriage. But a wedding ring does. Relax in a comfortable armchair or lie flat on your back and induce a state akin to sleep. You remember that what that is? Drowsy. You feel heavy. You can move if you want to, but you don't want to. And you do not cross over into sleep. Just the state, just that drowsy, heavy state. Then assume the feeling of being married. Imagine a leaden band on your finger. Touch it. Turn it around the finger. Pull it off over the knuckle. Keep the action going until the ring has the distinctness and feeling of reality. Become so lost in feeling the ring on your finger that when you open your eyes, you will be surprised that it is not there. Now, if you're a man who does not wear a ring, you could assume greater responsibility, bills, handbags and shoes and fuel for the car and such. How would you feel if you had a wife to care for? Assume the feeling of being a happily married man right now. Question 3. What must I do to inspire creative thoughts, such as those needed for writing? Answer. What must you do? Assume the story has already been written and accepted by a great publishing house. Assume the story has already been written and accepted by a great publishing house. Reduce the idea of being a writer to the sensation of satisfaction. Repeat the phrase, "Isn't it wonderful?" Or "Thank you, thank you, thank you," over and over again until you feel successful. Or imagine a friend congratulating you. There are unnumbered ways of implying success, but always go to the end. Your acceptance of the end wills its fulfillment. Do not think about getting in the mood to write, but live and act as though you are now the author you desire to be. Assume you have the talent for writing. Think of the pattern you want displayed on the outside. If you write a book and no one is willing to buy it, there's no satisfaction. Act as though people are hungry for your work. Live as though you cannot produce stories or books fast enough to meet the demand. Persist in this assumption, and all that is necessary to achieve your goal will quickly burst into bloom, and you will express it. Oh, isn't that something? Question number 4. How do I imagine larger audiences for my talks? Answer. I can answer you best by sharing the technique used by a very able teacher I know. When this man first came to this country, he began speaking in a small hall in New York City. Although only 50 or 60 people attended his Sunday morning meeting, and they sat in front, this teacher would stand at the podium and imagine a vast audience. Then he would say to the empty space, "Can you hear me back there?" Today, this man is speaking in Carnegie Hall in New York City to approximately 2,500 people every Sunday morning and Wednesday evening. He wanted to speak to crowds. He was not modest. He did not try to fool himself, but built a crowd in his own consciousness, and crowds come. Stand before a large audience. Address this audience in your imagination. Feel you are one. Feel you are on that stage, and your feeling will provide the means. Question 5. Is it possible to imagine several things at the same time? Or should I confine my imagining to one desire? Now, that's a very popular question. Let's repeat it. Question number 5. Is it possible to imagine several things at the same time? Or should I confine my imagining to one desire? The answer. Personally, I confine my imaginal act to a single thought. But that does not mean I will stop there. During the course of a day, I may imagine many things, but instead of imagining lots of small things, I would suggest that you imagine something so big it includes all the little things. Instead of imagining wealth, health, and friends, imagine being ecstatic. Well, you could not be ecstatic and be in pain. You could not be ecstatic and be threatened with a dispossession notice. You could not be ecstatic if you were not enjoying a full measure of friendship and love. What would the feeling be like if you were ecstatic without knowing what had happened to produce your ecstasy? Reduce the idea of ecstasy to the single sensation. Isn't it wonderful? Do not allow the conscious reasoning mind to ask why. Because if it does, it will start to look for visible causes, and then the sensation will be lost. Rather, repeat over and over again. Isn't it wonderful? Suspend judgment as to what is wonderful. Catch the one sensation of the wonder of it, and all things will happen to bear witness to the truth of this sensation. And I promise you, it will include all the little things. Question 6. How often should I perform the imaginal act? A few days or several weeks? Answer. In the book of Genesis, the story is told of Jacob wrestling with an angel. The story gives us the clue we are looking for, that when satisfaction is reached, impotence follows. When the feeling of reality is yours, for the moment at least, you are mentally impotent. The desire to repeat the act of prayer is lost, having been replaced by the feeling of accomplishment. You cannot persist in wanting what you already have. If you assume you are what you desire to be to the point of ecstasy, you no longer want it. Your imaginal act is as much a creative act as a physical one, wherein man halts, shrinks, and is blessed. For as man creates his own likeness, so does your imaginal act transform itself into the likeness of your assumption. If, however, you do not reach the point of satisfaction, repeat the action over and over again until you feel as though you touched it and virtue went out of you. Question 7. I have been taught to not ask for earthly things, only for spiritual growth. Yet money and things are what I need. Wait, say that again? I have been taught not to ask for earthly things, only for spiritual growth. Yet money and things are what I need. Answer. You must be honest with yourself. All through scripture, the question is asked, what do you want of me? Some wanted to see, others to eat, and still others wanted to be made straight, or that my child live. Your dimensionally larger self speaks to you through the language of desire. Do not deceive yourself. Knowing what you want, claim you already have it, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give it to you. And remember, what you desire, that you have. So you see, rest there a moment in that. Rest there for a quick moment. See that question? Question 7. Oh, it is a fact, isn't it? We live in the world of Caesar. So don't deceive yourself. Question 8. I know I said I was going to stop, but ooh, these are lit tonight, these questions. Question 8. When you have assumed your desire, do you keep in mind the ever presence of this greater one protecting and giving you your assumption? Answer. The acceptance of the end wills the means. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and your dimensionally greater self will determine the means. When you appropriate a state as though you had it, the activity of the day will divert your mind from all anxious thoughts so that you do not look for signs. You do not have to carry the feeling that some presence is going to do it for you. Rather, you know it is already done. Knowing it is already a fact, walk as though it were, and things will happen to make it so. You do not have to be concerned about some presence doing anything for you. The deeper, dimensionally greater you has already done it. All you do is move to the place where you encounter it. Remember the story of the man who left the master and was on his way home when he met his servant who said, "Your son lives?" And when he asked at what hour it was done, the servant replied, "The 7th hour." The self same hour that he assumed his desire. It was done for him. For it was at the 7th hour that the master said, "Your son lives." Your desire is already granted. Ooh, say it again, Angela. Your desire is already granted. Walk as though it were. Although time beats slowly in this dimension of your being, it will nevertheless bring you confirmation of your assumption. I ask you not to be impatient, though. If there's one thing you really have need of, it is patience. Oh, be still, my soul. Question number 9. Isn't there a law that says you cannot get something for nothing? Must we not earn what we desire? Answer. Creation is finished. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The parable of the prodigal son is your answer. In spite of man's waste, when he comes to his senses and remembers who he is, he feeds on the fatted calf of abundance and wears the robe and ring of authority. There is nothing to earn. Creation was finished in the foundation of time. You, as man, are God made visible for the purpose of displaying what is, not what is to be. Do not think you must work out your salvation by the sweat of your brow. It is not 4 months until the harvest. The fields are already white. Simply thrust in the sickle. Question number 10. Does not the thought that creation is finished rob one of his initiative? Answer. If you observe an event before it occurs, then the occurring event must be predetermined from the point of view of being awake in this three-dimensional world. Yet, you do not have to encounter what you observe. You can, by changing your concept of self, interfere with your future and mold it in harmony with your changed concept of self. Do you get that one? Again, question number 10. Does not the thought that creation is finished rob one of his initiative? Answer. If you observe an event before it occurs, then the occurring event must be predetermined from the point of view of being awake in this three-dimensional world. Yet, you do not have to encounter what you observe. You can, by changing your concept of self, interfere with your future and mold it in harmony with your changed concept of self. Question 11. Does not this ability to change the future deny that creation is finished? Answer: no. You, by changing your concept of self, change your relationship to things. If you rearrange the words of a play to write a different one, you have not created new words, but simply had the joy of rearranging them. Your concept of self determines the order of events you encounter. They are in the foundation of the world, but not their order of arrangement. Oh. Question 12. Why should one who works hard in metaphysics always seem to lack? Oh, Angela, let's say that one again. Question 12. Why should one who works hard in metaphysics always seem to lack? Answer: because he has not really applied metaphysics. I am not speaking of a mamby-pamby approach to life, but a daily application of the law of consciousness. When you appropriate your good, there's no need for man or state to act as a medium through which your good will come. Living in a world of men, money is needed in everyday life. If I invite you to lunch tomorrow, I must pick up the check. When I leave the hotel, I must pay the bill. In order to take the train back to New York, my railway fare must be paid. I need money and it has to be there. I'm not going to say, well, God knows best and he knows I need money. Rather, I will appropriate the money as though it were. We must live boldly. We must go through life as though we possessed what we want to possess. Do not think that because you helped another, someone outside of you saw your good works and will give you something to ease your burden. There is no one to do it for you. You yourself must go boldly on appropriating what your Father has already given you. Whew, put that one in your pipe. Oh, yes. Question 13. Can an uneducated person educate himself by assuming the feeling of being educated? Answer: yes. An aroused interest is awarded information from every side. You must sincerely desire to be well schooled. The desire to be well read, followed by the assumption that you are, makes you selective in your reading. As you progress in your education, you automatically become more selective, more discriminating in all that you do. Question 14. My husband and I are taking the class together. Should we discuss our desire with each other? Answer: there are two spiritual sayings which permeate the Bible. One is, go, tell no man. And the other is, I have told you before it comes to pass, that when it does come to pass, you may believe. It takes spiritual boldness to tell another that your desire is fulfilled before it is seen on the outside. If you do not have that kind of boldness, then you had better keep quiet. I personally enjoy telling my plans to my wife because we both get such a thrill when they come into being. The first person a man wants to prove this law to is his wife. It is said that Mohammed is everlastingly great because his first disciple was his wife. Well, that was question 14. Whew, we haven't even made it to a half an hour yet. Do you want me to continue going? Because we can. We can. Question 15. Should my husband and I work on the same project or on separate ones? Answer: that is entirely up to you. My wife and I have different interests, yet we have much in common. Do you recall the story I told of our return to the United States this spring? I felt it was my duty as a husband to get passage back to America, so I appropriated that to myself. I feel there are certain things that are on my wife's side of the contract, such as maintaining a clean, lovely home and finding the appropriate school for our daughter, so she takes care of those. Quite often, my wife will ask me to imagine for her as though she has greater faith in my ability to do it than in her own. Well, that flatters me because every man worthy of the name wants to feel that his family has faith in him. But I see nothing wrong in the communion between two who love one another. Question 16. I would think that if you get too much into the sleepy state, there would be a lack of feeling? Answer: oh, when I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. Feeling grateful, fulfilled, or thankful. It is easy to say thank you. Isn't it wonderful, or it is finished? When you get into the state of thankfulness, you can either awaken knowing it is done or falling asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Let us do this question again. Question 16. I would think that if you get too much into the sleepy state, there would be a lack of feeling. Answer: when I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. Now, feeling grateful, fulfilled, or thankful, it is easy to say thank you. Isn't it wonderful? Or it is finished. When you get into the state of thankfulness, you can either awaken knowing it is done or fall asleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Question 17. Is love a product of your own consciousness? Answer: all things exist in your consciousness, be they love or hate. Nothing comes from without. The hills to which you look for help are those of an inner range. Your feelings of love, hate, or indifference all spring from your own consciousness. You are infinitely greater than you could ever conceive yourself to be. Never in eternity will you reach the ultimate you. That is how wonderful you are. Love is not a product of you. You are love, for that is what God is, and God's name is I am, the very name you call yourself before you make the claim as to the state you are now in. Question 18. Suppose my wants cannot materialize for 6 months to a year. Do I wait to imagine them? Answer: when the desire is upon you, that is the time to accept your wish in its fullness. Perhaps there are reasons why the urge is given you at this time. Your three-dimensional being may think it cannot be now, but your fourth-dimensional mind knows it already is. So the desire should be accepted by you as a physical fact now. Suppose you wanted to build a house. The urge to have it is now, but it is going to take time for the trees to grow and the carpenter to build the house. Although the urge seems big, do not wait to adjust it. Claim possession now and let it objectify itself in its own strange way. Do not say, it'll take 6 months or a year. The minute the desire comes upon you, assume it is already a fact. You and you alone have given your desire a time interval, and time is relative when it comes to this world. Do not wait for anything to come to pass. Accept it now as though it were and see what happens. When you have a desire, the deeper you, who men call God, is speaking. He urges you through the language of desire to accept that which is not that which is to be. Desire is simply his communion with you, telling you that your desire is yours now. Your acceptance of this fact is proved by your complete adjustment to it as though it were true. And there tonight, whew, I will leave you. We're gonna go into the silence, yes. I will timestamp all of these questions. Oh, don't you worry. To make it simple for us. But I trust that these questions and answers were helpful to you. Do you remember the process? Know what you want. And then experience in imagination what you would experience in reality if you were the man or the woman you wanted to be. And that thing that you experience in imagination, whether it would be a thank you because you feel it is done. Isn't it wonderful? It is finished. Now you put yourself into that drowsy state, the state akin to sleep. We'll do it for 5 minutes. You'd be surprised how long 5 minutes actually is. And when you put yourself into that state, feel that it is done. Feel the satisfaction of completion, the thrill of it, the excitement of it being completed. That's it. And what did he say? He said, well, how often should I repeat this? And he said, when you have reached the state of satisfaction. Well, you don't want to do it anymore, do you? Things just go flaccid or limp, don't they? Impotent. You can't do it anymore because you've already reached the climax. Wait 20 minutes and start again. You catch what I'm saying to you then, yes? So let us take 5 minutes, shall we, to go into the silence. And tomorrow we will continue with more questions. I'm just getting the timer. 5 minutes. And there you have it, my beautiful friends. Our going into the silence. Now rest well, my beautiful friends. And if you need to replay these questions, definitely do so. I will put them in such a way that you can save them, so on and so forth. Indeed. I will do my best to post them on all platforms for you so that they're there. You can share these questions because these are very popular questions. Thank you for spending your time with me tonight, Wealthy Supreme Rico, Shea Butter, and it's good to see you tonight. You finally made it to a nighttime session. Ah, Wealthy Supreme. Shea Butter, Rone, Sugar Visions. And for the others who've not made themselves known in the chat on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, I see you. Fanbase, Flow Smiles, Fawn, that deal. Thank you all for being here tonight. Yes, and a little bit has been quiet. He probably knows I'm upset. Anyhow, rest well, my beautiful friends. And I trust that one of these has stuck out for you tonight. Perhaps it's a question you've been asking for quite some time. I'll see you on the morrow. Much love to you all. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good night.